What happened to the trucks that just worked? You know the ones: manual windows, no flashy screens, a bench seat, a tough little four-cylinder under the hood, and a bed that didn't need to come with $1,000 cover or integrated smartphone compatibility. Once upon a time, trucks were the workhorses of America: simple, reliable, tough as nails, and built to last. But those days? They're long gone. The death of the simple, reliable truck didn't happen overnight. It was a slow, deliberate shift, a change influenced by economics, regulations, consumer trends, and corporate priorities. So today, let's dig deep. What really killed the small, honest truck? Why did affordability vanish? And is there any hope for its return? Origins of the simple truck. In the early days, trucks weren't glamorous. They were Spartan tools. The earliest pickups were little more than converted cars with a bed bolted to the back, like the Ford Model T runabout with pickup body. They weren't designed for comfort or performance. They were built to haul hay, lumber, and anything a growing country needed to move. But that simplicity was part of the appeal. For decades, pickups remained mechanical, dependable machines. Their charm wasn't in leather upholstery or chrome accents. It was in their function. After World War II, trucks began to evolve. Soldiers returned home, the economy boomed, suburbs exploded, and so did consumer demand for personal vehicles with utility. Automakers started seeing an opportunity to market trucks not just to farmers and contractors, but to regular families. By the 1960s and 70s, the market saw a divide: full-size work trucks on one end and a growing class of compact trucks on the other. These smaller pickups, like the Toyota Hilux, Datsun 620, Chevy LUV, and Ford Courier, offered light-duty versatility at a fraction of the cost, and without the bulk. Golden age of compact pickups. The 1980s and 1990s were arguably the golden years for compact pickups. Trucks like the Chevy S10, Ford Ranger, Dodge Dakota, Mazda B-Series, and the Nissan Hardbody ruled the streets. They were cheap, easy to maintain, and lasted forever. You didn't buy them for prestige. You bought them because they got the job done. They were mechanically straightforward: four-cylinder or V6 engines, rear-wheel drive or part-time four-wheel drive, and manual transmissions that gave you full control. Repairs could be done in your driveway. Parts were cheap. And there were no fragile, over-engineered electronics waiting to fail. These trucks weren't about flash. They were about grit. For teenagers, small business owners, dyers, and anyone who just wanted an honest vehicle, the compact truck was perfect. And in a way, it represented a deeper philosophy. Vehicles should serve us, not the other way around. When trucks became luxury vehicles. But everything started changing in the early 2000s. Trucks got bigger. They got heavier, and most of all, they got more luxurious. Suddenly, leather seats, touchscreen infotainment systems, lane assist, adaptive cruise control, and 20-inch wheels became standard expectations. Trucks stopped being workhorses. They became lifestyle statements. Instead of hauling mulch and plywood, they were hauling lats and laptops. The rise of the luxury truck meant manufacturers could charge $50,000, $60,000, even $80,000 for a vehicle that used to be a tool. And because these premium trucks had massive profit margins, automakers leaned into it hard. Suddenly, there was no incentive to offer a basic $18,000 truck with roll-up windows. It just didn't make business sense anymore. And the compact pickup? It started to disappear. Why sell a truck with a tiny profit margin when you could convince a consumer to buy a high-trim F-150 King Ranch for quadruple the price? The EPA's unintended consequences. Now here's where things get frustrating. Many blame consumer preferences or the automakers themselves, and those are valid points. But one of the biggest culprits behind the death of the simple truck is regulatory policy, specifically from the EPA. To encourage fuel efficiency, the EPA introduced what's called the footprint rule. Essentially, the larger the vehicle's footprint, the area between the wheels, the more lenient its fuel economy targets. That means a bigger vehicle has a lower standard to meet than a smaller one. It sounds backwards, but it's real. This led to an absurd paradox. It's actually easier and more profitable to build a giant truck than a small, efficient one. Why? Because a small truck would be required to meet very high fuel economy targets, and doing so would require expensive hybrid or electric tech, which kills affordability. This rule, perhaps unintentionally, discouraged small trucks and encouraged the mass production of oversized vehicles. It created a world where a full-size truck is easier to make compliant than a compact one. That's why the Ford Maverick, arguably the smallest truck on the market, comes standard as a hybrid. It has to. A traditional internal combustion engine would struggle to pass emissions without adding cost. Safety standards and manufacturing costs. There's also the issue of safety standards. Modern crash regulations are far more rigorous than they were in the 80s or 90s. That's a good thing for occupant safety, but it comes at a price. To meet today's standards, vehicles need stronger frames, crumple zones, more airbags, electronic stability control, sensors, cameras, the list goes on. And when you try to squeeze all of that into a compact footprint, it gets complicated and expensive. Automakers are left with two choices. Make the small truck larger to accommodate everything, or don't build it at all. Most opt for the latter. This is why trucks like the Maverick and Hyundai Santa Cruz, while marketed as small pickups, are actually bigger than the mid-sized trucks of 20 years ago. The old Rangers and S10s wouldn't stand a chance under today's rules without significant, costly re-engineering. The business of big truck. Then there's the business side. Big trucks are cash cows. They carry enormous profit margins, and because Americans have largely accepted high vehicle prices as the new normal, manufacturers don't have to convince people to spend $50,000 on a pickup anymore. People just do. Even fleet buyers, the ones who used to demand no-frills, bare-bones trucks, are now often offered higher-trim models because of limited production runs of base trucks. Automakers simply don't build enough of them. It's not just about consumer demand. It's about what makes sense for the company's bottom line. Smaller, simpler trucks can't compete, not because the demand isn't there, but because they don't generate enough profit per unit to justify large-scale production in the current system. It's an ecosystem designed to reward bloat and punish simplicity. Can the small truck return? Is there hope? Maybe. If there's any path forward, it might be through electric vehicles. EV platforms are inherently modular, and it might be possible to build a small electric truck with low operating costs and good range. But that brings its own challenges: weight, battery cost, and of course, whether people want a simple truck with complex electrics. Another path could be what Mazda did with the Miata: bring back a forgotten format in a way that captures emotion and culture. Imagine an all-new, classically styled small truck, bare bones, light, analog, and priced under $20,000. It's a long shot, but if any major automaker took that leap, it could redefine the truck market. There's still a huge enthusiast base. The love for old Rangers, Tacomas, Datsuns, and S10s is stronger than ever. Look at the online communities, the restoration projects, the demand on used markets. The desire is there. What's missing is the will: corporate will, political will, and financial will. The legacy lives on. The simple, reliable truck isn't just a vehicle, it's a symbol. A representation of an era when vehicles served people, not the other way around. When affordability, durability, and practicality weren't sacrificed for touchscreens and 22-inch wheels. And though the industry has moved on, the spirit of the compact pickup lives on in the memories of those who drove them, and in the ones still wrenching on them today. If you've ever owned one of those legendary little trucks, whether it was an S10, a Tacoma, a Datsun, a Courier, or a Dakota, you know exactly what made them special. And if you haven't, find one while you still can, because nothing being made today quite captures that magic. Subscribe if you love real vehicles, real stories, and real analysis. There's a lot more to uncover beneath the sheet metal, and we're just getting started.